Greetings, Cosmic Core. Mike here with Sci-Fi and more, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome to our Sci-Fi family. And thank you all so very much for your continued support of our channel. Without all of you, we would not be here. We wanted to put together a special tribute to one of the greatest eras in science fiction cinematic history, full of firsts for sci-fi, the 1950s, the true golden age of science fiction. As I was doing my research, I pulled a lot of information, so in the interest of being as accurate as possible, this will be the first video in a 3-video series. So, let's get some popcorn and celebrate the true golden age of science fiction. The 1950s are often celebrated as the golden age of science fiction movies, known for their classic and innovative nature. This decade saw the production of at least 204 science fiction films, for a record-setting highest number of sci-fi films produced in a single decade. While many were low-budget, numerous films tackled significant political themes and public concerns of the time, such as infiltration, nuclear fears, and invasions, maintaining their relevance even today. Science fiction movies of the 1950s achieved so many things, including introducing new subgenres, showcasing special effects and addressing geopolitical concerns with films like 1954's Them, which was one of the first nuclear monster films and big bug features, reflecting a concern to the nuclear age, while others, like 1957's The Incredible Shrinking Man, are considered a classic example of atomic age paranoia. These examples help cement the foundations to establish the science fiction subgenre. Other films of the decade explored other subgenres such as space discovery, alien visitation, and end-of-the-world stories by utilizing these new special effects. But starting right out of the gate in 1950, Destination Moon featured Oscar-winning special effects despite being made on a small budget with an unknown cast. In fact, 4 science fiction films from the 1950s, Destination Moon in 1950, as mentioned, When Worlds Collide in 1951, The War of the Worlds in 1953, and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea in 1954, all won Academy Awards for their visual effects, while The Incredible Shrinking Man in 1957 won a Hugo Award. Now, notably, 3 of the Academy Award-winning films, Destination Moon, When Worlds Collide, and The War of the Worlds, were produced by George Pal, a pioneer in animation and science fiction cinema whose work continues to inspire to this day. And, despite not winning an Academy Award, The Incredible Shrinking Man received the first Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation in 1958. The Hugo Award is an annual literary award for the best science fiction or fantasy works and achievements from the previous year, and it's presented at the World Science Fiction Convention, or Worldcon. It is widely regarded as the premier award in the science fiction genre, and its first recipient was Alfred Bester in 1953 for his novel, The Demolished Man. The award itself is named after Hugo Gernsback, the founder of the first science fiction magazine, Amazing Stories. There'll be an upcoming video on Amazing Stories magazine, but we will mention him here briefly. Hugo Gernsback was born in Luxembourg in 1884 and moved to America in 1904, and became an electronics enthusiast. He started a radio station and was involved in some of the first television broadcasts in 1928. He created several magazines for amateur radio and electronics enthusiasts, but Then he launched Amazing Stories magazine for those interested in both electronics and good storytelling. The first issue featured a one-page editorial and 6 stories by contemporary writers of the time, including Jules Verne. He liked to call these scientific fiction. Say that word 5 times fast. That just does not roll off the tongue very well. But it was the other name that he coined, science fiction, that caught on more broadly. His formula for success with Amazing Stories: 75% literature and 25% science, and the audience loved it. The 1950s were marked by post-war affluence, new leisure activities, and the emergence of fast food chains like Jack in the Box in 1951 and McDonald's first franchise in 1955. Key inventions included the transistor radio, the flight data recorder, the microchip, the advent of television and TV dinners. The Diners Club card was the first credit card in 1951. Non-stick Teflon pans, saran wrap, and cultural icons like Barbie and hula hoops. Significant innovations included the rise of the drive-in theaters, peaking with over 4,000 outdoor screens by the late 50s, and the rapid increase of television ownership, with about 10.5 million U.S. homes having TV sets by 1950. These factors, specifically the advent of the drive-in and the increasing number of televisions in American homes, fueled the golden age of science fiction. Well, is it the golden age, or is it the true golden age of science fiction? Well, the golden age of science fiction in the United States is often identified as the years between 1938 through 1946, which was a period when a number of foundational works of science fiction literature appeared. In the history of science fiction, the Golden Age follows the pulp era of the 1920s and 30s and precedes the new wave science fiction of the 60s and 70s. The 50s are, in this scheme, a transitional period. However, American author Robert Silverberg, renowned for his science fiction works like Downward to Earth, often referred to the 1950s as the true golden age of science fiction. This period experienced significant growth and innovation in the genre, characterized by prolific output, groundbreaking ideas, and contribution from major authors like Isaac Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke, Philip K. Dick, Robert Heinlein, and Ray Bradbury. Additionally, there was an expansion into mainstream media, increased publisher support, and themes reflecting technological optimism and pessimism. Robert Silverberg views the 1950s as the true golden age of science fiction, making it a pivotal period that helped establish the genre's importance and influence on literature, film, and popular culture. Silverberg himself is a distinguished figure in science fiction with multiple Hugo and Nebula Awards, membership in the Science Fiction and Fantasy Hall of Fame, and the prestigious Grand Master of Science Fiction title, an honor given by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers Association, which was first awarded to Robert Heinlein in 1975. Golden Age science fiction is also known as Campbellian science fiction, characterized by a literary term known as hard science fiction, featuring linear narratives and heroes solving problems in space opera or technological adventure settings. The style is named after John W. Campbell, an influential American science fiction writer and editor who shaped modern science fiction. Campbell was the editor for Astounding Science Fiction, which was later called Analog Science Fiction and Fact, from 1937 until his death in 1971. He was also an accomplished writer. His 1938 novella, Who Goes There?, was adapted into the film The Thing from Another World in 1951 and John Carpenter's The Thing in 1982.
Needles hit the top.
With the rise of science fiction films and the popularity of the drive-in theaters, the American Releasing Company, or ARC, saw a lucrative opportunity. Known for low-budget exploitative films, ARC capitalized on this trend under the leadership of executives James Nicholson and Samuel Arkoff. Their most notable producer, Roger Corman, became a highly influential filmmaker of the era, earning the title King of the Drive-In and B-Movie for his prolific output of low-budget films. ARC's efforts significantly contributed to the wave of independently produced films that continued into the 1970s. The first film released by ARC was the B-movie crime thriller drama called The Fast and the Furious in 1954, which starred Dorothy Malone and John Ireland. And early on, many of Roger Corman's productions for ARC were westerns, like Five Guns West and Gunslinger in 1956. However, ARC and Corman also explored other genres, producing significant science fiction and horror films such as 1955's The Beast with a Million Eyes, Day the World Ended, The Phantom from 10,000 Leagues, and Attack of the Crab Monster in 1957. Science fiction fans in the 50s enjoyed so many fantastic and innovative films, but This Island Earth in 1955 stood out among the prevalent low-grade horror and science fiction movies of the era. The film is based on a short novel of the same name by Raymond F. Jones. The story originally appeared in Thrilling Wonder Stories magazine and is part of what is sometimes called the Peace Engineers trilogy, which was published in the June and December 1949 and February 1950 issues of the magazine. And, you know, one generation's classic childhood Saturday afternoon sci-fi movie is another generation's Star Wars of the 1950s. And this influential 1950s sci-fi classic straddles both of those categories. In the 50s, science fiction was becoming big business, and color film was becoming more common. Though many films were still in black and white due to cost, Universal, now teamed up with International Pictures, aimed to capitalize on this trend while creating a significant color sci-fi film that could elevate the status of their typically low-budget studio. Joseph M. Newman, a producer and director known for westerns and noir, brought a sci-fi project to Universal, which quickly moved it into production despite being late to the genre's popularity. The deal was finalized on December 2nd, 1953, and filming began in late January 1954, giving the prop, costume, and production design departments little time to prepare. Additionally, the script underwent changes due to in-house producer William Allen's dissatisfaction, leading to a chaotic pre-production for This Island Earth. Producer William Allen wanted to remove the Metaluna mutant from This Island Earth because he thought it was ridiculous and not fitting in with the storyline. However, the studio insisted on having a monster in the film. Ultimately, with time running out, an unused concept from Allen's earlier success, It Came from Outer Space, inspired the now iconic creature, which became one of the most popular monsters of the era. I mean, can you imagine this island Earth without one of the most, if not the most iconic movie monsters of the era? I can't. Still, Universal's publicity department played up the idea that the costume was cutting edge and cost more than $20,000 to make, distinguishing the Metaluna mutant as the most expensive movie monster of the time. The special effects team at Universal, including King Kong effects man Clifford Stein, who replaced Stanley Horsley midway through production, excelled in their work on this island Earth. Their skills were showcased in the film's last half hour, using blue screen effects, plates, and beautiful matte paintings. For other incredible moments, including a wide shot of Metaluna up close, Universal constructed a massive miniature of the planet's surface, close to 200 feet wide, which showcased the landing of Exeter's flying saucer, which itself was an 18-pound aluminum model requiring calculated wire work, raining down meteorites which were sliding down piano wire, and a blitz of explosions, with the effects department setting off live pyrotechnics to sell the realism. This island Earth was notable for its sound innovation as well, being one of the first 1950 science fiction films to use Western Electric's stereophonic sound to complement the stunning visuals. This technology utilized 2 or more channels to create a more dynamic and spatial auditory experience, unlike monophonic sound, which comes from a single channel. The stereophonic sound system enhanced the auditory experience for viewers, marking significant technical progress in the film's sound technology during the 1950s. The virtues of this island Earth are notable for its anti-war, pro-science, and pro-technology themes. It was the first science fiction film to depict interstellar travel and interplanetary war, featuring a nuanced, sympathetic alien character caught between his own dying world and the ethical dilemmas of exploiting the inhabitants of a new world. Emblazoned with a poetic title, the plot altered the typical alien invaders concept for a first-person trip to the extraterrestrial's home planet itself. It was a cautionary Cold War allegory in a time when our populace believed the enemy could drop an atomic bomb on us at any minute. It is one of the finest looking films of the 50s from a technical standpoint, and renowned for its technical excellence in both sound and video. Sound effects like recordings of radio teletype transmissions played at different speeds to create the sound of Exeter's ship and the interocitor. These effects greatly influenced future filmmakers like Joe Dante, John Carpenter, Tim Burton, and George Lucas. Lucas was so impressed with the film's explosions that he showed the original special effects dailies to his SFX team while developing Star Wars. Principal photography occurred from January 3rd through March 22nd, 1954, with location shots at Mount Wilson, California. The title was one of the very few flat widescreen titles to be printed direct to matrix by Technicolor. This specially ordered 35mm printing process was intended to maintain the highest possible print quality, as well as protect the film negative. This Island Earth was released on June 10, 1955, with a production budget of $800,000, and by the end of that year had accrued $1.7 million at the domestic box office and won a technical award from the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Films. The film has also received mostly positive critical reviews, with some calling it the best science fiction movie of 1955. Imagine that. Critics actually liking movies that we, the fans, like. And what about The Day the Earth Stood Still, released during the Cold War era as a statement in favor of international peace and cooperation? It was a thoughtful and well-made science fiction film with a relatively high budget that achieved box office success. The film demonstrated that science fiction could be more than low-budget B films or children's entertainment. In doing so, it paved the way for future developments in the genre. Additionally, it significantly influenced the visual and auditory styles of subsequent science fiction films. Screenwriter Edmund North, producer Julian Blaustein, and director Robert Wise transformed a short story into a sophisticated film with a strong message. In the movie, an alien saucer lands in Washington, D.C., and an alien named Klaatu and a giant robot named Gort emerge with a message of peace. Greeted with violence, their arrival sets off events that deliver a strong warning against automatic hatred. The Day the Earth Stood Still is loosely based on Harry Bates' story, Farewell to the Master. In the story, a craft travels through space and time and appears outside the Smithsonian Museum in Washington, D.C. The humanoid alien Klaatu and a giant robot named Gnut, or Gort in the movie, emerge from the craft, but Klaatu is killed by a sniper. Authorities, fearing retribution, bury Klaatu in a hero's monument and build a new wing of the Smithsonian around the robot and the craft, which remains grounded with Gnut standing motionless outside. The Day the Earth Stood Still was a landmark in American science fiction cinema, distinguished by its high quality and strong backing from 20th Century Fox, including a top-notch director and cast. Unlike many science fiction films of the time, it was in essence designed for thinking adults, by being both serious and cerebral, addressing important political issues in a serious and courageous manner. But despite its mature themes, the film also managed to be highly entertaining, even for children. An interesting aspect of the movie is its controversial anti-militaristic stance, which led the U.S. Department of Defense to refuse support to the film. As a result, the filmmakers had to borrow equipment and soldiers from the Virginia National Guard's 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment at Fort Meade, Maryland. This regiment provided the necessary vehicles, equipment, and soldiers for the scenes depicting Army operations, and they were reportedly happy to cooperate. In fact, the next time you watch the movie, you can see that one of the tanks in the film bears the Brave Rifles insignia of the 3rd Armored Cavalry Regiment. That is pretty awesome. Producer Julian Blaustein reviewed over 200 science fiction stories and novels before choosing Farewell to the Master to shape the metaphorical discussion on geopolitical issues. The revised final screenplay was completed on February 21st, 1951, with science fiction writer Raymond F. Jones, best known for his 1952 This Island Earth novel, serving as an uncredited advisor. Principal outdoor photography took place on the 20th Century Fox sound stages located on their backlot in California, while a second unit shot scenes in Washington, D.C. and at Fort Meade, Maryland. The shooting schedule spanned from April 9th to May 23rd, 1951, with the primary actors never traveling to Washington for filming. The Day the Earth Stood Still, released on September 18th, 1951, was a highly influential and notable science fiction film with a production budget of about $995,000, and in its first year, it grossed about $1.85 million domestically. The film's promotion of international peace earned a Golden Globe Award for Best Film Promoting International Understanding. And while we're talking about classics, how about the 1953 film The War of the Worlds, directed by Byron Haskin and produced by George Pal? This is a notable entry in science fiction cinema as well. The film's innovative special effects, combining practical effects and animation, earned it an Oscar and set a new standard for the genre. It also featured color matte paintings by Chelsea Bonestell to depict the solar system. The movie adapted H.G. Wells' 1898 novel, changing the setting from Victorian England to 1953 Southern California. But what's really interesting is in 2011, The War of the Worlds was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the United States Library of Congress, who deemed it culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The War of the Worlds begins with a fantastic black and white prologue featuring newsreel war footage and a voiceover by Paul Frees detailing the destructive technological advancements from World War I through World War II. The image then smash cuts to vivid Technicolor with dramatic title cards and credits. It showcases a series of color matte paintings by Chelsea Bonestell of the solar system, with the exception of Venus, and is narrated by Sir Cedric Hardwicke. The prologue explains why the Martians find Earth the most appealing target for their invasion, given our planet's lush environment. Paramount Pictures first attempted to adapt The War of the Worlds when the studio bought the film rights to the novel in 1925. Unfortunately, Paramount was forced to put the project on hold, and then later in the 1930s, Paramount attempted another adaptation of the novel under new direction, but again, the studio failed to produce the film. Even Alfred Hitchcock threw his hat in the ring and entered discussions about adapting the novel. The film gained momentum when George Pal took on the project in 1951. Pal initially planned a version faithful to the original story, featuring a scientist searching for his wife after societal collapse. However, Paramount Pictures production head Don Hartman required changes, of course, including adding a romantic subplot where the scientist meets and falls in love with a woman. This adaptation was the first of two classic H.G. Wells science fiction novels filmed by Pal, the second being 1960's The Time Machine. Efforts were made to steer clear of the stereotypical flying saucer design for UFOs. Instead, Albert Nozaki designed the Martian war machine with a sinister manta ray shape that floated above the ground. 3 copper props for these war machines were made, and a decade later, the same blueprints were reused, minus the neck and cobra head, to create the alien spacecraft in the film Robinson Crusoe on Mars, directed also by Brian Haskin. Unfortunately for us fans, that prop was reportedly melted down for a scrap copper recycling drive. That's unfortunate. Each Martian war machine features an articulating metal neck, ending with a cobra head heat ray projector that houses a single electronic eye. This eye functions both as a periscope and as a weapon, emitting a red sparkling beam accompanied by a distinctive thrumming and high-pitched clattering shriek.
Come on out. We're friends. That's right. We welcome you. We're friends. Yeah.
That sound effect was created by an orchestra using mainly violins and cellos, and became a staple ray gun sound on children's TV shows and science fiction series like The Outer Limits. The Martian machines also fire a pulsing green skeleton beam from their wingtips, which makes a distinctive sound and disintegrates targets. This weapon replaces the black smoke chemical weapon from Wells' novel. The sound effect, created by striking a high-tension cable with a hammer, was reused in Star Trek the original series for photon torpedoes. The sound of the Martian ships moving was also reused by Star Trek for an overloading hand phaser. Another prominent sound effect is the chattering synthesized echo, possibly representing Martian sonar resembling hissing electronic rattlesnakes. This is a true testament to 50s science fiction innovation and creativity, brought to life by special effects artists like Gordon Jennings and Al Nozaki. Al Nozaki, in particular, who is credited with designing the distinctive war machines with their unique manta ray-like shape. The manta ray-looking ship, with its cobra-like periscope, is easily one of the best designed alien ships in cinema history, and with the added brilliant sound effects, created a terrifying visual experience. And let's not forget the impenetrable force fields resembling clear jars or bell jars. These force fields were created using matte paintings on clear glass, photographed and combined with other effects to optically print together in post-production, effectively demonstrating how Earth weapons are ineffective against these shields. But the Martian death ray and weapons can fire right through them without any problem. Also, the creation of the disintegration effect in the film required 144 separate matte paintings. The sound of the war machine's heat rays was made by recording 3 electronic guitars and then playing them backwards. The Martian's scream in the farmhouse was produced by mixing the sound of a microphone scraping dry ice with a woman's scream, which was then also reversed. One effect that proved to be challenging was creating the walking tripods from Wells' novel. So the Martian machines were made to appear as if they floated on 3 invisible legs. Subtle special effects like downward lights were intended to represent these legs. However, these lights are only seen once in the final film, as the first 2 machines can be seen rising out of the Martian landing site. Marking out the invisible legs amid smoke and other effects was too difficult and posed a major fire hazard. In later scenes, the invisible leg beams are indicated by small sparking fires where they touch the ground. And the alien creature itself. Now that was something new and interesting to see at the time. The War of the Worlds had a considerable budget for its time, and significant resources were allocated to special effects and creature design. The alien costume itself, a key part of the film's impact, cost approximately $24,000 to develop. This expense was part of the broader production cost, but it highlights the film's commitment to creating convincing and memorable extraterrestrial beings. The investment in realistic and high-quality special effects played a vital role in the film's success and its lasting influence on the science fiction genre. Artist Chelsea Bonestell, known for his imaginative extraterrestrial designs, was the key artist behind the Martian creatures. But it was Charles Gamora, a veteran costume maker and makeup artist, who was hired to construct and bring to life the Martian design created by Bonestell and Al Nozaki. Known for his ability to perform in suits due to his short stature, Gamora created a single Martian suit for a 6-foot-tall performer. However, just one day before filming the iconic farmhouse scene, it was discovered that the suit was too large for the set. Gamora then had less than 20 hours to rebuild the creature in smaller proportions so that he could fit and perform the role himself. With the Martian suit's proportions reduced, the electronic wiring for the eye had to be placed on the upper torso to increase mobility. To camouflage these wires, Gamora added sculptural veins and vein-shaped bladders to the upper portion of the creature, similar to those on the arms, as a last-minute addition. Now, in my research to make this video, I could not find any information about whether or not the original Charles Gamora prop suit was still around today. So, if you know, please drop a comment down below. I would love to know the answer to that. But what I did find was a 9 3/4 inch tall model prop figure consisting of wire armatures, covered in model maker's foam, and hand painted. This particular model was obtained from a union carpenter who worked with one of George Pal's model builders and was made to be used as a guide for the prop's original designers for the movie, which sold in 2011 at Hake's auctions for $2,530. Not too shabby. And here's an interesting misconception about the War of the Worlds film, which has persisted for about 50 years or so. When the original 3-strip Technicolor prints were replaced by Eastman Kodak color stock in the late 1960s, it degraded the special effects, making previously invisible wires suspending the Martian war machines visible. This led many, including critics, to wrongly believe that the original effects were of low quality. I thought that was an interesting fun fact. The War of the Worlds was released on February 20th, 1953, operating on a budget of $2 million and taking in $2.5 million during its release. And there you have it, Cosmic Core. We hope you have enjoyed part 1 of our retrospective on the 1950s, the true golden age of science fiction. And thank you all so very much for watching. And if you enjoyed our video, please be sure to hit like and share the video. And if you think we've earned it, please subscribe and join our Sci-Fi family. Part 2 of our series will be posted very quickly, so plenty of time to refresh your popcorn bucket. And if you would like to check out additional sci-fi content, please be sure to check out our other channel, Sci-Fi and More Fun News, for updates and current sci-fi happenings. Until next time, have a great galactic day, everyone.